Welcome to the Bitchin' Siblings Podcast.
Coffee. I like it. So welcome everyone to this week's episode of Bitchin' Siblings Podcast. It's just Ginny and I this week.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Today's kind of a special, weird one. We're recording on a completely different day and at a completely different time than normal. So if we sound different or act funny, apologies.
Yeah, it's not early per se for me, but I'm not fully awake. And this little like hair is like,
I am so distracted.
Chicken.
I don't think I heard a word you just said. I just see this little like chicken. What is that? Like I don't know what that is, but
okay.
It's a little alfalfa sprout.
Yes, I've got a hair that's sticking straight up. Like my bangs are sticking straight up, and they will not lay down.
Let me get a picture of it for our. Okay, and then let me get a video of me shaking her head. See, this is what we're talking about, guys.
That's awesome.
His hair. Okay, so that's going on their Instagram.
Cool. So
I mean, if I have to be distracted by it, so does everybody else.
But anyways, so this week we are talking about drivers and traffic and our like rants and raves about that.
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts, but
right.
I'm going to let you run with this one.
Okay. Well, so lately I've been noticing we have had like so many people just like running red lights. Like, I don't know if they're just not paying attention and they're just following the car in front of them through the light, or if they just really think that, you know, they're more important than anybody else and it's worth potentially causing an accident by them running a red light. It's driving me crazy. And what really gets me is that they turned off the red light cameras during COVID. I don't know why. I don't know what the purpose of that was, but they turned them off. And I don't think they've turned them back on because it's like people are getting worse.
Funny story. One time I accidentally ran a red light after I had already stopped at the red light.
Did you think it was a stop sign?
No, I stopped. It was a red light.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing. I know what I was doing. I was driving. I had gotten called in. I was the manager of a store and I had gotten called into work. So I had to go up to work. You're familiar with our town, so you know where that house was and you know what store I used to run. And so, like, I mean, it's not like a huge drive, but it's about 3/4 of town. And I stopped at a light and then I just kept going. Like, I stopped going, okay, it's a red light. And then, like, in my head, it turned green. It didn't. And then I just kept going. And then all of a sudden I had this, oh shit moment. Did I just run a red light or was it really green? Like, I don't remember like what happened. So I looked in my rearview mirror and I see the light turn green and I was like, fuck, I just ran a red light and I was stopped. And I was like, how do you explain that to a cop if you get pulled over? Like, yes, officer, I was stopped at the red light, but then I went through it because I thought it was green.
I have stopped at stop signs and just waited there because I was waiting for it to turn green. And I was not impaired by any means. It was just I was that tired. I legit thought, I was like, why isn't it turning? Oh, yeah, I'm at a stop sign. I can go when I want now. Thankfully, nobody was at that intersection, so nobody was like, what the hell is this
I think
chick
you would have
doing?
found out a lot sooner if there was because they'd have honked at you. So
No kidding. No kidding. Absolutely. Like, the other day, I was, so the main road that I have to take to get to work, I came up to a light one day, I think it was this week, and my light turned green. And then all of a sudden, like, the cars going the opposite direction. As soon as I went through the intersection, they all, like, there were 5 of them, all went through that light. And I'm like, was there a glitch and they had a green light at the same time I did? Or did they all just decide they didn't want to wait anymore for this light to turn green for them? I'm not just talking 1, 2 cars. 5 cars, all back to back to back, all went through this light. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Or did I run a red light? Yeah, I had to actually look back and I'm like, okay, no, my light was green. So if they went and they had a green light, there was either a glitch in the matrix or they all just were too antsy and didn't want to wait. I don't know. It was
It's
fucking
probably
weird.
a little bit of both.
Probably. Probably. But yeah. And then, like, one of my major ones is turn signals. Like, nobody fucking uses turn signals here. And then they get pissy that you're not letting them in, like, because they want to merge. Well, I don't know you want to get in if you don't tell me. And I can't, like, I'm not listening for you to go, hey, lady, let me in. No, I'm not. Use
I'm
a fucking turn signal.
petty ass bitch when it comes to driving. If you wait till the last minute to try to merge into my lane, nope, you're not getting in. You will hit my car before I let you in. And then guess what, buddy? It's your fault. No. Like, I mean, I understand if like somebody's from out of town and doesn't, like, perfect example, we had the overpass here in town was under construction for like 6 months. And for like 3 of the months they had it shut down one lane, like you could use this lane and you had to merge into it, and then after like 3 months they moved it over to the other lane so they could work on each lane instead of shutting down the whole bridge, right?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, whatever. If you're from out of town, a lot of people didn't know, so like I'll give some acceptances to people who are from out of town or out of state and maybe weren't aware and weren't paying attention, because that happens, but if you have a certain county plate for where I live, it's there. It's been there for 4 months. You motherfucker, you're getting in behind me. I'm not letting you in. Oh my God.
I love when there's like major big construction signs and it says lane closed ahead, 1 mile ahead, merge now.
Right.
And people wait till that last minute and then they get pissy because you're not letting them in. It's like you saw the sign, same as I did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't get special treatment just because you're fucking lazy or...
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
I'm petty.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
You can definitely tell that I was taught how to drive in a larger city with much more vehicles, many more lanes, where, more room for mistakes when there's more lanes and more people. So the fact that there's so many people here that just do stupid shit, like I would take rush hour traffic in Seattle over the quote unquote rush hour traffic here in town on any day of the week, because there's one major road that goes north and south, and then there's a couple that go east and west. And obviously you can get to town north and south any other way. There's lots of other roads, but the one main road.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, from like 4:45 to like 5:45, nobody knows how to drive on it. Nobody goes the speed limit. Nobody uses their blinkers. And it's like there is 30,000 people in this city. They're not all driving at the same time. How is this traffic worse than downtown Seattle traffic that has 6 lanes?
Well, I think part of the thing too with Seattle is that you're fully stopped. Like rush hour through Seattle, it's like bumper to bumper, and you aren't making mistakes. You aren't able to go the speed limit because guess what? There's no room for you to go.
Well, and you always get that jackass that's going to try to drive on the shoulder or try to go into an exit lane just to go up fast to try to squeeze back in. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that there aren't stupid drivers in Seattle either, because don't even get me started on some of that shit. But like, I just feel like coming from an area where there's so many more people and so many more vehicles, I don't understand how inept some of these drivers are in the Midwest, where, we get a lot of snow here. We get a lot of ice. So like, when Seattle shut down this year because they had ice, everybody was making fun of them. And I said, no. Like, Seattle's got some crazy steep hills. There's no walking or driving on these. We don't really have that. We're in the Midwest. Like, there's one big hill in town,
And your hill is not a hill.
Well, no, but like there's the top of the hill. It's called Hilltop, and then there's the bottom part. So like 90% of...
Why is it that every town has a hilltop?
I don't know, but it's not ghetto like the hilltop we grew up in.
Well, like I was thinking the same thing. Our hilltop is where the mall is.
Yeah, no, ours is like, and it's a hill, and like if there's bad weather, if you live at the bottom of the hill, there's there's grocery stores, gas stations, whatever, vice versa, with on the top of the hill. So it's not like you have to go down the hill in Seattle. Like, you could be living somewhere and the only way to get to a grocery store or gas station is to go down a hill. Like,
yeah, or up a hill in ice.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I found it humorous. I watched the videos on TikTok myself, but I'm also not making fun of them, because we've been there, we've done that, we've lived there during some ice storms and snowstorms, and the whole city shuts down.
So quick little side story. January of '07. I only remember this because it was when Grandma went to the hospital the last time.
It was when Elle was born.
Yes, yes. So, Grandma went to the hospital. We had to call an ambulance because she needed to go, and it was icy and snowy, and
Mhm.
so her and Aunt Sunday went in the ambulance. I drove in my car to the hospital. The hospital is literally on the top of the hill, literally, because it
Oh,
was St.
yeah.
It was St. Joe.
St. Joe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, even St. Joe or TG, they're both,
yeah,
you
but
know.
TG, there's like other ways to get kind of
Mhm.
bypass so that you don't have to go up
Mhm.
as steep of a hill, right? Yeah, so St. Joe, I was on my way there, and in the snow, I never went the freeway because I did not want to deal with people on the freeway when it was snowy and icy because, I just didn't. Anyway, so I'm going back roads. I get to the bottom of the hill right before you go up to St. Joe, and I couldn't get up the hill. Like, my car was like, fuck you, we're not going. It is too icy. No, no, we're not doing this. And that I had the little Saturn at that time.
Mm.
So, like, it's not happening. So
Yeah.
I parked in a parking lot at the bottom of the hill and walked up to St. Joe.
Not surprised.
Yeah. But then I got a ticket where I was at because it was they're like, you can't park there. And I'm like, really? You're going to give me a ticket in the snow and ice when I can't go anywhere else? Like, where do you want me to park?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny because when Mom was in the hospital when she passed, before she had passed, we were up there for 10 days, whatever.
Mhm.
And one of the days I had drove up and I had parked her car where I thought there was parking, and then by the time we left there was a parking ticket, and we had to fight it. Emily had to fight it. And if I remember correctly, at first they were giving us so much crap, and we were like, she's dead. Like, sorry that we didn't get the car moved in time, like what are you gonna do? Give her, because it was registered, the car was registered to Mom, so the ticket was in Mom's name.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, she's deceased, so good luck getting that money. And from my understanding is eventually Emily got it taken care of. But I remember sitting there thinking, like, why? I have never gotten a parking ticket anywhere else except for outside of a hospital.
Right?
Like, people are already at the hospital. I'm not going to say 99% of the time, but there's a fairly decent chance that if you're at the hospital, it's not for something good.
Exactly.
And the last thing somebody needs to do is come out and see a ticket because there's some person who's, and I get it, it's their job, I'm not judging them, but like, Jesus Christ, why aren't we patrolling the downtowns? When we were in Lincoln the other day, I don't know how many people had expired parking meters. Nobody got a ticket. But if you go to the hospital and you park somewhere and you're 1 minute past the parking time, there's
Yep.
somebody patrolling. It's the stupidest thing. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't get enough money as it is. Now we got to give you a ticket.
Also at St. Joe's Hospital, back when I had the Honda.
Oh, yeah.
Your old Honda.
Skittles.
Yeah, Skittles. So I went there one time.
Precursor there. I used to name my vehicles when I was younger.
Who didn't?
And yeah, and my first car was a 87 blue Honda Accord with the old style flip lights, and Skittles that was her name. It was just,
and it fit. And then when Ginny moved from Washington to Nebraska, she handed that car down to me, and that was my car for a little
Skittles
while.
lasted till about 275,000 miles?
Something like that. And when it finally died, it blew a head gasket, and it was well beyond my scope of expertise at the time. I probably could
have fixed it because it had a new transmission.
Yeah, and it had a new alternator because Chris had replaced that.
And a new clutch. Because when I got it, we had put a brand new clutch in. So by the time you got it, it was not that old.
That car is the one that died while we were going home after visiting you when you had A.
Yeah.
Because Chris and his girlfriend at the time, who was pregnant with our other nephew, that died in Rock Springs, Wyoming.
And that's the worst place to die.
Yeah, and the sad part is Chris knew. He's like, something, the alternator's going out or the battery's going out. He told me something was going out, and he's like, we've got to make it to a bigger city. And it was the middle of the night, and we got to Rock Springs right around 5-6 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't have a super Walmart at the time. So it wasn't open yet.
Because this was 19 years ago.
Yeah. And this was also on a Sunday.
And in the middle of the Midwest on a Sunday, nothing's open.
I remember, so we slept in the car for 2 hours until Walmart opened, and I got the tools, and then I walked from there while Chris and his girlfriend were still sleeping to AutoZone when they opened at 9 o'clock. And I was going to walk back with this loaner battery they were going to give me to get us up to the shop so that we could get this part. Well, they're like, you are not walking almost a mile with this big ass battery. We're going to give you a ride. So they gave me a ride back to the car. We put this loaner battery in, drove back up to the AutoZone, and then Chris had to learn how to replace the alternator in that because it was very different. So anyone who doesn't know Hondas, or at least older Hondas, I'm sure they've gotten a little better. The alternator was not easily accessible. You had to take either a lot of stuff up off the top, or you had to take the tire off and then go up from underneath.
But I bet you it was a lot easier then than it is now, because I could change my headlights and taillights and everything back then. And now you can't even do that. They purposely make it so that you have to remove a bajillion things to get to it, purposely so that you have to take it into a mechanic to do it to make money. Like, it's so frustrating. Because I used to be a badass. I could change tire. I could change... What?
I said, unless you're cool like me.
Well, I mean, I've YouTubed a couple of things lately, but unfortunately some of these newer ones... Well, and unfortunately, like, my car's a hybrid, so it's very different because there's just some things that you cannot remove. And so anytime something has to be done to my car, it has to go to a mechanic.
I had to YouTube how to remove my taillights because one of my taillights was out. And a lot of places online was saying, hey, this is very difficult. You could break this one piece. And I was like, no, I can do this. I've got nimble little fingers. I can do this. And so I pulled it out and I was able to actually replace that taillight by myself. And then in our Jeep, before we got rid of the Jeep, the signal indicator switch, so the little lever for your turn signal,
broke.
Well, it didn't, the lever itself didn't break. It's something in the mechanics of it made my turn signal always stay on.
Oh.
So, that's just as unsafe as not using a turn signal. Right. So, my brother-in-law told me, because I was looking it up and everywhere was saying the part was like $200. And he's like, no. Here's a link to get it on Amazon. It's $35. I got the $35 one from Amazon, and then he sent me a link on how to replace it myself because we didn't live near him. And people looked at me and they're like, why didn't you make your husband do that? And I was like, okay, so first of all, I'm more mechanically inclined than he is. First and foremost. Second of all, even if he could do it, it was in such a place that he couldn't physically have gotten down there. I had to lay on the floor with my legs up on the seat, and my head down by the pedals to be able to finagle and get in certain areas. There's no way in hell he would have been able to do that. A 6'4" guy trying to get down there like that, no, that's not going to happen. So,
what are you driving now that you got rid of the Jeep?
The Kia Sportage.
How do you like that? Because Roger and I are looking at new cars, and I am obsessed with the 2023 Kia Tellurides. I do not need one because it seats 8 people. It's a gas guzzler. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I want one, but I'm also very much acknowledging the fact that our children are grown. I do not need 8 seats. It is not necessary. So we were looking at a more of a smaller mid-size SUV. The problem is
like the Sorento?
Well, I don't know because this is going to sound really bad. I don't want it to look like some of those mid-size SUVs are starting to become the new minivan where they look like a definite mom car.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. So there's some Sorrentos and some Tucsons and Sportages that are okay. I mean, I need to go in and see them, but I'm obsessed with the Telluride.
I've heard amazing things about the Telluride.
I know, but I don't need that big of a vehicle.
Yeah, and I don't know that I could say that putting a Sportage and a Telluride next to each other, I'm not going to tell you that my evaluation of the Sportage is going to suffice for a Telluride, but
No, I'm just
I
saying, like,
love
when
the
you drive
Sportage.
it, do you like it? Do you have enough
Mhm.
space? Like, for me, it would be more or less, I have a couple of kids that still ride in the car every once in a while. I have a dog that, likes to sit in the car and stick her head out the window. And I just want to be able to, like, have room, like, when we go to Omaha, Lincoln to go to Costco, we don't need to take the truck every time but you know what I mean? Because, like,
Yeah.
my car is spacious, don't get me wrong, but, when you have those big boxes, there's only so much space you can have in a trunk. So that's my thing.
I like mine. My back seats are never really up because we always take the dogs places,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
and I don't want the hair on the seats if we do ever use them. But when we were test driving them, Bill actually sat in the back seat,
Mhm.
and he said it was very spacious for him,
Okay.
which is a definite plus because
Yeah.
someone his size
How are
getting in
you
and
on
out.
gas mileage?
I I get about 18 miles to the gallon.
See, that's too small for me. I want something that's in
I
the 20s.
honey, I literally just drive to and from work.
I know,
I
but
have no highway miles.
see, that's the problem is, yeah, I can do a lot of stuff here in town, but if we ever want to go anywhere, I want something that when we're taking it, because right now we take Roger's truck, and it's not bad on gas mileage, but it's certainly not the best. My car is better on gas mileage. A's car is way better on gas mileage on the interstate than in town. So, like, mine gets really good gas mileage in town. I get about 37 miles to the gallon. And then on the interstate, it's like 25. He gets like almost 30 on the interstate. And
So
so,
apparently, if we go on the interstate, we get a lot higher gas mileage.
well, yeah.
Here's the problem. Literally, I work 5 minutes from home,
Yeah.
and so I don't have a need to take the freeway. The longest trip that vehicle has been on, unfortunately, is between Reading and Chico. And Chico is about an hour, hour and a half away. And even then, I didn't drive that. Bill drove it.
Yeah.
So, but he said the gas mileage was a lot better when he went
See, and
there.
that's my thing is the reason why I like my car in town is because it's a hybrid. I get insanely good gas mileage when I'm driving back and forth to work. Like, I fill up my gas tank, and on an average month, I only have to fill it up once, and it lasts me the whole month.
You see, and that's the case for me. But again, I don't live that far from work.
Right.
And 18 is just like I think it's 18.
I'll have to look. Well, and you guys have an older one, not older, but the
It's
newer,
3 years old.
yeah, but some of these new ones are like the gas mileage is insane.
No, I know. I'm saying, like, I can't believe it's already 3 years old.
Yeah.
Like, it feels
So
like we
see,
just
we
recently
wanted to
bought
talk about dumb drivers, and now here we are talking about new cars.
it. See, things just evolve.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to driving, and like I'm bad at this. Doesn't help that I recently taught 2 teenage boys how to drive, so my patience is very thin. But one of the things that I cannot stand. Now, I'm not saying when you're at a busy intersection and there's traffic coming from all different directions, this is not what I'm talking about. But when we're taking a turn, like a right turn, like a right-hand turn, right? Like
Hmm.
onto a street. There's no other traffic. There's no other lane from the other direction. So there's no traffic. The only other way that traffic could be turning into that lane is if it's coming from the other direction and waiting. And if it's going to cut in front of everybody, there's going to be an accident regardless. But why the fuck do we have to almost come to a complete stop going around a damn corner? I don't understand.
Is it primarily elderly people that live in
No,
your town?
no, it is literally people. It's like, I don't know. I feel like I get stuck behind people who have nowhere to be. And not in a bad way, but like no specific time. So they just
Yeah.
kind of lollygag and like
Yeah.
whatever. And they want to take the corner going 2 miles an hour. Great. Awesome. I'm not speeding. I am driving a safe speed limit, a safe distance behind cars. But when you are literally going the speed limit, but then take your foot off the gas a mile before you have to turn and then almost come to a complete stop before you turn. Like, I have to come to a complete stop because they're going so slow that if I'm moving at all, I will clip the side of their car with my passenger side because they're moving that fucking slow. Drives me nuts.
Yeah,
Drives me
no.
nuts. Like, it is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, I've told my kids, like, you don't need to slow down to 25 or to 2 miles an hour. Obviously, we're not going around the corner 25 miles an hour, but like, you can take a corner and not be literally a slug going around the corner. And like I said, I'm not talking about those busy 4-way intersections where cars can be coming from every direction, where maybe you do want to come to a complete stop to make sure there's no traffic coming from the left. That is a totally different situation.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely different. I'm talking about, you are going down, there's this road that goes right in front of the high school here, and there is a place where you can turn to go into one of the hospitals, or you can turn to go into one of there's like a city park.
Okay.
And like, people will be leaving and you could be heading east on this road, and people will stop like to turn into where the hospital is, but they literally go so freaking slow. They just like slowly pull in. Okay, you're a dumbass, because right now there are 1,800 kids leaving high school and they're weaving in and out of traffic. So like, it's like the concept of going too fast is dangerous, but going too slow is dangerous too.
Absolutely, it is.
Yes.
Hence why they can give you speed or tickets for going too slow.
Not here.
But they
in the
don't.
Midwest, we don't do that. But I don't know. It's just one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, it has always been one of my biggest pet peeves of how slow people go around corners.
So
I don't know why.
adding on to that, how about the drivers that, like a gas station or something, and they pull out in front of you, but then they don't get up to speed.
And time.
Yeah, or at all.
So you have to like slam
on your brakes. Yeah, and you're like, really? There's nobody behind you. You couldn't have waited 10 seconds for me to go by?
Well, and even if you couldn't have waited, if you're gonna pull into traffic, you need to go with the speed of traffic.
Exactly.
Like, if it's that tight of a fit and there's so many cars and there's only a little bit of room to get in, I understand taking that opportunity, but in a safe approach, you still need to be making sure that you're going quick enough that you're not impeding the traffic behind you. Like,
Exactly.
I understand slowing down a little bit to allow vehicles in. A little bit's fine. But when I have to like slam on my brakes or I'm going to hit you, that's
Exactly.
no.
For me, it always seems that they pull out in front of me and there's nobody behind me. They could have waited for me
Right.
to go by. And I'm like, really, dude, just don't be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just wait. Just wait. Especially if you're not going to get up to speed.
So
But,
frustrating.
yeah. And then we have a lot of people here, and I'm sure you guys have it too, being in the Midwest, people that have jacked up trucks.
Yeah.
Apparently, this rise in gas prices that we've seen over the past year and a half, whatever, I don't know. It's been a while. Apparently, that does not deter them from wanting to show off their big ball energy and revving their engine. I'm like, dude, nobody fucking cares. Your car is obnoxious. And all of that exhaust that just came out of your truck is fucking gross, and now I'm choking on it. Thanks, dick face.
Well, he can't really be a dick face, because generally in that situation, it's because they're overcompensating for a very small penis.
Well,
And
yes,
so-
but like I'm gonna call him a dick face. Okay, I'm gonna call him what I want.
Okay, random story about mom. Hilarious story. Okay. This is my mom. My mom was the Karen of all Karens. Okay. My mom had no problem causing a scene if she thought she was right. Right. Like, my mom yeah. Plenty of stories where my mom said
Wanted
and did
to
things
speak
where
to
I'm
a
like,
manager.
yeah. Okay. But my mom was also very, I don't want to say old school, because she definitely wasn't like, ladies have to be prim and proper. But there was definitely an older vibe to her. Like, she didn't agree with Playboy. She thought that strippers were being forced into it. And like, that's degrading to women. And like, to each their own, those are your opinions, whatever. Right. So mom was very opinionated, but had no fucking filter towards the end. And I remember when I was dating my now ex-husband, I had a neighbor who was a friend of mine, and his brother lived close to where mom lived. So one day I wanted to go home to visit mom, and he wanted to go visit his brother. So he just dropped me off on the way so we could save on gas, because it was a good 45-minute drive from where we had lived to where, mom was. And then his brother was in Bremerton.
Okay.
And so it was like he just had to keep going. So he dropped me off, and mom was like, oh, I just got to talk to him, blah, blah, blah. She met him or whatever. And like, they introduced each other to him, and he had a really big jacked up truck. And this was 20 years ago. Okay. And my mom, no shit, straight fucking faced goes, so is it true that the smaller or the bigger the truck, the smaller your penis? How big's your penis? My mom legitimately asked this guy who I'm friends with if he had a small dick because he drove a jacked up truck.
Oh
And she
my
was
God.
fucking serious, straight faced. And then when he laughed, I was like, oh my God, like, Mom, like, you can't ask those questions. Oh
Yeah,
my
you
God,
can.
straight as face. She goes, well, I just want to know if it's true. And I'm like, do you really, even if he had a small penis, do you really honestly, do you think he's going to like admit to it?
On top of the fact, do you actually want to know?
Oh, my mom would want to know just to know, like, scientifically if there was some truth to it. She wouldn't necessarily want to see it, but like she would want to know. And then because he laughed about it and thought it was so funny, also preference, my mother hated my ex-husband from day one. Red flag, should have known. And we were together at the time. We were not married, nor do I think we were pregnant at the time, so there was no, we were dating, but that's it. Mom was convinced that I should have married this person. She's like, oh, he's a good guy. I like this guy. You should marry this guy. I like him. He's got a sense of humor. And I'm like, why? Because you asked him if he had a small dick and he laughed about it? Like, you don't like my husband at the time, my boyfriend, for good reason. But at the time I was like, you met this guy for 30 seconds.
Why is it that back then they could tell us that somebody wasn't good, but they couldn't tell us necessarily why? And
Oh no, Mom knew why.
What was her reasoning?
He was a narcissist. She was like,
She
knew.
saw that?
Oh yeah, she was like, he blames everything on you. Everything was always my fault. If something didn't go right, it was I could have done differently. It was never any there was no accountability on his end. Like if something didn't work, it was either somebody else's fault or my fault.
See, and I never saw that until after you guys got married. Like I didn't I never saw that per se, and I guess I don't know. But
I think she also
funny.
didn't like him because he was just like rough around the edges. Like he just, he grew up in a difficult life, which he did. I will give him that. His childhood was, I don't want to say like bad like ours, but certainly not ideal. And he was just rough around the edges and sometimes didn't have that. When you meet somebody, you kind of put on your best face. He gave zero fucks. He was who he was. He didn't try to pretend to be somebody he wasn't, which at that age for me was very endearing because I knew what I was getting. Like there was no fake ass shit. But at the same time, that endearing thing, I couldn't see past it and go, oh, but sometimes you do have to like suck it up and just put a smile on your face and just pretend,
Yeah.
No, mom hated him from day one. But yeah, funny story about Mom. She asked if a friend of mine's penis was small because he had a jacked up truck. Oh. And for clarification, I don't know because I never saw it. I don't know.
So we don't have the answer to that scientific question?
No, because I wasn't dating the guy. He was my friend. Now, contrary to popular belief, some of his friends at the time, my ex-husband's friends at the time, thought we were cheating. We were not. So I do not know. So for scientific purposes, I cannot answer that question.
I love how we lay it on the science part.
Yeah. It's that research. I never did it.
Exactly.
I never did the research.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Maybe though, you would have still ended up with your kids, but with a different father for them.
Yeah, but if that were the case, I would probably have still been married to this person because this person's a very, very nice person. He's a great father. He's married now with kids and he's fabulous and he's wonderful. He's a hard worker. Sweetest guy you'll ever meet. So then I wouldn't have met my husband now.
That's true.
And I am just enamored with my husband. And so if I could have the same kids with a different father, I would, but I wouldn't be where I'm at now because I do imagine this person. He's just a good guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not in a relationship with him. I'm sure that he's got his downfalls, but
and I absolutely love your husband too. Like I love how blunt he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. There's no filter.
There's no filter on my husband at all.
No.
At all. But he is the biggest fucking teddy bear.
Yeah.
When it comes to,
I think
the other day I was
yours.
like, honey, I don't feel well. And he comes home and he's like, should I get you a heating pad? What can I do for you? Can I get you something to drink? Can I rub your back? What do you need? Like, I'm like, babe, it's fine. Like, I'm going to go take a hot bath with some Epsom salts. Like, I'll be okay. And every day he's checking in on me. Are you okay today? Have you gone to the bathroom? Oh my gosh. Like, I'm fine. I'm still up moving around or whatever. And he's like, sit down, I'll cook. Like, oh my God.
I think he reminds me of mine because that's how mine is too.
Mm.
Like, do you remember when we were at the hospital because Mama was there and
Oh, yeah.
he sent us a care package. Like when I went up to visit you, he sent like this bag coloring
With coloring books
and magazines and
coloring crayons and markers and
Tim's
donuts.
Cascade chips.
Tim Cascade's chips, yes.
Yes.
Stuff to drink.
Yep.
Talking Rain.
Yes.
Oh my God, he sent, because I love that stuff.
Yep.
Oh
And just very, very thoughtful, very sweet,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
like, what can I do to make this difficult time a little bit easier? Like,
but no damn filter.
oh, absolutely not. Fuck no.
They could give two shits on who they say anything about and what that person thinks. It's interesting.
It is. It is. Like,
very, very
but
interesting.
they absolutely love their people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My husband is, I knew I was going to marry him on the first day because of that compassion. Like, I didn't necessarily knew I was going to marry him right away, but I knew on our first date, like, oh my God, that's the man I'm going to marry. Just because you can just see like that compassion and like, again, no filter.
Yeah.
It's not like on our first date, he was pretending to be somebody he wasn't. Obviously, you could tell he was a little bit nervous, but there was still no filter. His opinions were still the same. The way he treats me now is the same exact way he treated me on our first day. There's no change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't like the first couple of months were like, oh, rainbows and butterflies, and then it slowly dies off. Him and I have had a very even keel relationship the whole way through. Like, what we were when we first met is who we are now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, totally.
yeah. So I wouldn't change him for the world. I wouldn't
course
change
not.
the situation. This
Of course
guy's a
not.
good guy, but, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, funny story. Mom had no filter either. So maybe that's why I married him, because my mom was the
Maybe.
same way.
Maybe.
She
I
loved
like
her
it.
people hard, but had no damn filter.
So back to drivers. Is there anything that you
Mhm.
absolutely love seeing when you're
I
driving?
love when dogs are in the car. I love it. Like, every time we see a car, I'm like, oh, it's a poopy. And yes, they're poopies. That would have come from my stepmom. She calls them poopies. And that's
Aw.
something that's just kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, your stepmom and I, we bond over dogs. Like, we send each other dog
Yes.
pictures and, you know, because
Yes. So, yeah, this is, our life is, I know we kind of had one episode where we kind of talked a little bit about our life, but not a whole heck of a lot. So after I was adopted, my adopted parents split up and each remarried, and have subsequently both divorced from their remarried spouses. I am not close or have a relationship with my ex-stepdad, but my quote-unquote ex-stepmother, I'm very close to. She was here for our wedding, and I still see her as a positive influence in my life. So she's been around since I was 14, 15. And
I don't know when they got together.
I'm 40 now. So it's been a hot minute. But, you know,
Pushing
she
41.
yeah, I am pushing 41. But Amy and her, yes, definitely bond over. She's has a love for dogs like you would not believe.
Specifically
Animals
German
in
Shepherds.
particular. Huh?
Specifically German Shepherds.
Yes. Yes.
She
When I was
loves
growing up,
those.
they had Yellow Lab Golden Retriever mixed puppies, CJ and Madison.
I knew I'd remember if you said the names.
Casey was our all black German Shepherd that we had on mom's side, and Chelsea.
I don't. Chelsea.
It was my ex
I remember
stepdad's dog,
Chelsea.
the all black one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. The funny thing is, I don't remember Casey. I remember Chelsea, and then
Casey
I
was
remember,
the all black one, and then Chelsea, yeah, and
Yeah, I
then
don't-
Jasmine.
Jasmine. I totally remember because that dog.
Yeah. Anyways, back to driving. My favorite thing
Yeah.
is seeing animals and dogs. And, you know, they're so happy when they're in the car and they just sniff in the air and just see all the different types of dogs.
My coworker used to have a sticker on her car that said, "Tell your dog I said hi."
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that seriously, that's the only sticker I would put on my car. 'Cause- Yeah.
That and like my other favorite thing is seeing not teenagers, because teenagers give zero fucks and they just go about their life and they don't care what anybody thinks, which is great. But I love seeing a good middle age, and by middle age I mean like 30 and above, just because I don't think that's necessarily middle age, but around 30 we start to get a little more, I think sometimes a little more uppity because we're in the corporate world. So I love when I'm driving and I see somebody in the 30s or 40s or whatever just rocking out to a song and just feeling themselves, because
Yes.
that's their moment, you know, and they don't care that everybody around them can see or hear. It's great to just see those people have that moment. You know, teenagers do that stupid crap all the time with their friends in the car. That's great. That's awesome. That's a very important thing to like experience with your friends. But as you get older, I feel like we think we're too cool or we're too grown up for that.
Yeah.
So to see that makes my heart happy. And
Yeah. That was what I was gonna say. I love when I pull up beside someone and they're just like jamming out to their music, and like they see that you're watching them and they don't care, and like, and then it just puts a big smile on my face, and yeah.
Now, if you're a punk teenager in a car with your bass blasting so that everything's rattling, no, I do not like that.
No.
Because that's just obnoxious.
Yeah.
But
do you remember like when we were teenagers and like it was cool to have loud muffler cars? Why did some people not grow out of that?
I don't know.
Because there are several around where I live that they still have that. And I'm like, dude, fix your muffler. Because that's obnoxious.
I think it's kind of like a vibe. Like a old school vibe. Like, don't want to grow out of, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s vibe where that's before shit got like
real.
Not like real. I don't want to blame it on social media because I know that is not the end all of everything, but it is kind of the catalyst that kind of just like I think pushed everything over the edge. Back before everybody knew everything about everybody and there were cameras everywhere. Yeah. There was just a vibe. Like nobody gave a shit. And like I wonder if they're just like nostalgically trying to stay in that vibe.
Maybe.
Even if it is annoying and obnoxious.
So just as a reminder, like and subscribe, follow us, give us 5 stars, email us anytime for suggestions or comments, or if you have questions that you want us to answer, email us at ginnyandamypodcast@gmail.com. That's GINNYANDAMY podcast@gmail.com. And Ginny, where else can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram at Bitching Siblings.
Good
podcast. Job. We put some posts on there. You can message us on there as well. We also don't forget to email us. We've gotten a couple of emails from you guys, some suggestions. They're all great.
And again, the picture and video of my little hair weird thing, that's where you'll find it. On Instagram. All right, everyone, have a good day, night, wherever you're listening to us at.